Morning, Trevor.
Morning. Welcome, everybody. So,
Morning.
morning we are talking about one of Ed's convoluted ideas. No, not really. But we're talking about hobbies or sports that can be used as a metaphor for business. So I think that was the topic, if I remember correctly. But Lee sent the email, as she always does, as you know. So yeah. So hobbies and sports or pastimes that we can use as metaphors for our business lives. So I'm not going to go to Trevor because I know he's just going to talk sports. So we better get it to Tabiso first and see what Tabiso thinks about this one. So Tabiso, I'm going to pop over to you straight away this morning. Over to you.
Okay, I'm going to talk about passions as business. And I'm going to talk about a character that I like, and it comes from actually a Quentin Tarantino movie. Rick Dalton on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's a professional actor. He's like the greatest actor in the world. And, he has this friend who's also a stunt double. Now this guy hasn't had like a gig in like years, but he's like a professional best friend, So I like that, because these two guys are actually living, their lives as passions, The main guy, Cliff Booth, no, not Cliff Booth, Rick Dalton, like I said, he's like a superstar, he lives in Hollywood, and his friend, the stunt double, there's a contract, because he lives in a trailer, and he lives a very minimalistic life, He's just there to support, Rick Dalton because he's the star, So I like that, because he's a professional best friend. I like that. I like, man, And this guy, Cliff Booth, like the friend of Rick Dalton, he beat up Bruce Lee, in the movie. So that's funny because Bruce Lee never loses, It shows the strength that, Rick Dalton actually has, to have a stunt guy friend, best friend, who can actually beat up Bruce Lee. So that's funny, Now, his career, Rick Dalton, is on the decline, and he needs like to get it up, So he goes on to to make Italian movies in some country, so that he can actually build up his worth again. His friend also, also follows him, and they actually make something out of that, So he comes back a bit, and what can I say? Life is difficult, especially as an actor, because it's very difficult to stay at the top, So what I actually learned, from that movie and that character, Rick Dalton, the best actor in the world, and his professional best friend, is that, living life, as a passion is actually rewarding, because you can see the two men are actually like very fulfilled, they're great, and they live life in order to be better. So they progress every day and they self-actualize, Living life as a professional means no excuses, You hold yourself accountable, and you just do your best every day. Living life as a professional, gives life meaning, because we all have that little something in ourselves that needs to grow, So when you live life as a professional, you give it a chance to like grow, So you give yourself time to be who you can be, It is fulfilling, and it helps you be a specialist, So that's what I learned from the movie, and I think that one should actually aspire to live life as a professional, so that you can be accountable for your own life, Live life as a business. Do what you can to actually progress, Be a professional in life. do things to the maximum, do things considering what it will do for the general, world, year round, So be committed, do things right, and just be a professional. I think that's my message for today, Just be professional, do things right so that you can progress. Because if you do things right and you are always on time and you do things the right way, then it will attract, people will actually be professional towards you, and then there will be this collaboration, So that's what I learned, that you can also be a professional best friend, and that's good enough. Be
Good.
something. So yeah, I think that's just my contribution for today. Thank you, Ivan.
Great, thanks,
Great.
Tabisa. Good. Right, so let's get across to the professional in the group. No, I know she's not here today. Just kidding. Right, Ed, let's get across to you next.
Yeah, I thought I would choose writing as my metaphor because I don't make enough money at it yet to count as a business. I still consider it a pastime. And I think a lot of writers suffer from imposter syndrome, which is exactly what happens with a lot of business people. They suffer from imposter syndrome and think they aren't good enough. Apparently 75% of all female executives suffer from imposter syndrome at some point in their career and hold themselves back because of that. So I think it is about believing you can do it. And the other thing writers are really good at is procrastinating. We can find anything to do rather than actually put words on paper. The washing up becomes really important. Research, you just disappear down research rabbit holes. But at some point in time, you've got to actually put pen to paper. And I think that's the same in business. You can do all your research, you can do all your thinking, but at some point in time, you've actually got to do something. And in her book, Bird by Bird, a lady called Anne Lamott talks about, and I'm quoting here, shitty first drafts. And the idea is just get that first draft out of you. It might not be that brilliant, but at least it's out of you and on the paper. And I think that's sort of very much a metaphor for minimal viable product. Get something out there that works and then you can refine it. And it's the same with the book. You get it on paper and then you can refine it. And the way to refine it is to ask other people for feedback on it. And that's the same in business, isn't it? Do your market research, ask for feedback, get a mentor, whatever it is. That's the real thing in business, is getting that feedback. And then there's another lady, Libby Hawker, in her book, Take Off Your Pants, which I thought was quite an interesting title for a book. She talks about, people that plot things out, and before they actually write a creative word, they've plotted everything out. They know exactly what's going to happen, all that sort of stuff. And there's people that fly by the seat of their pants. Hence the title. I think it's the same in business, isn't it? There's people who fly by the seat of the pants. They might be first to market, but it's perhaps not the best product. And then there'll be the people that are planners, and they're perhaps not as quick to market, but they've got a better product, and they perhaps take less risks. So, but both seem to work in business, don't they? So I think it just depends on which one you are as to which you choose. And in the book Bird by Bird, Anne talks about the reason it's called Bird by Bird is because her brother had a project to do about birds, her younger brother, and when they were children, and he'd left it really late to do. And the night before it was due to be handed in, he was sitting at the kitchen table with all his books around him in tears, because he was overwhelmed by the enormity of what he had to do. And his father just put his, sat down next to him, put his arm around him and said, just write it bird by bird, buddy. Just take it one bird at a time. And that's the same in business, isn't it? You can't be overwhelmed by what you're going to do. You just have to do it one step at a time, and just keep taking those steps until you get to where you are. And there are plenty of books on writing. I've read lots of books on writing, and perhaps one of the best is called On Writing by Stephen King. It's a book about him. It's a memoir, but also it's a book on how to write. And it's incredibly how similar he is to most other writers. It's just he works a lot harder, probably. And that's the thing, isn't it? There's plenty of books on business. There's loads of books on business. You can read thousands of books on business. And now there's videos on businesses. There's podcasts on businesses. There's probably even TikTok on business. But at some point in time, you just have to get down and do it. Reading books doesn't write books. Writing writes books. Reading about business doesn't transact one single piece of business, except for the author, of course, which is why he wrote the book. So you've got to get down and do it. And then in a story, you've got to keep your reader's attention. And you have mini climaxes at the end of each chapter, and you lead on and lead on and lead on to the final crescendo. But you can't put too much in there, or you overwhelm them. And I think it's the same in business, isn't it? You've got to keep your customers engaged and aware of you. You know, the biggest brand in the world, the most recognized brand in the world, Coca-Cola, they still advertise their brand to keep their customers engaged. And you think about the iPhone. I know this will please Tabitha, because he loves all that stuff. You know, I think the iPhone first came out in 2007, and we're now on iPhone 12. So they haven't overdone it. They've increased models. Ivan kind of thinks maybe they have overdone it, and perhaps I do, because I'm still on iPhone 6 and we're on iPhone 12 now, and I prefer my Android Samsung to an iPhone. But they've kept that interest by ticking over, by keeping doing it. And I think if you just stand still, you die. So you have to keep evolving, you have to keep moving. And then finally, one of the books I read on writing, I mentioned it before, is Save the Cat Writes a Novel. It's based on a screenwriting book. And then I've lost my train of thought now, because I just read Ivan's thing about how do you milk sheep, bring out an iPhone for $1,000. But I think they haven't overdone it. It's like some companies, they send me so much rubbish, I stop subscribing. And I think at some things, you know, if you brought out, if we're on iPhone 24 by now, we'd have lost the plot. But I think iPhone have got it right. And I hate to say that, but unfortunately I do. But Save the Cat, in the whole it started life as a thing about screenwriting, and there's a few books in Save the Cat mode, because the person obviously believes in, you know, keeping their customers happy and selling more books. But in there, the reason it's called Save the Cat is because if you've got a movie with a bad character in it and you want people to like them, you get them to save a cat or do something nice. And I think a lot of businesses do that to try and make themselves look nicer than they are. They hug a tree, or they plant a tree, or they donate to some cause, or set up a foundation which is a bit dodgy perhaps. So I think there's a lot of parallels between writing and business. And the final one is a lot of businesses save a cat.
Yeah, and that's why we've got so many cats on the planet. Yeah, all right. So Les, let's get across to you next. What are your thoughts on sports or hobbies or pastimes that we can use in business?
Yeah, well, I've actually been quite sporty throughout my whole life, virtually. I suppose Trevor can probably relate to this quite a bit. Back in our school days, we been part of the swim team, athletics team, and rugby team, and that sort of stuff. But after I finished school, I actually followed quite a vigorous athletics career. Ran the comrades many times, so we did a lot of long distance running. And one thing it did teach you a lot was perseverance, planning, determination, how to actually, and when you're exhausted, you keep on going and things like that. So you keep on pushing it to the end. So you relate to that in business in many ways. Where you have to obviously plan your career, business, and then also persevere and how to deal with problems, to solve problems. Same thing with long distance running, and also determining what your niche is in the place as well. I mean, we can't all be top athletes, but we also have our niche in terms of our physical constraints and things like that, and we determine where we fit in. And the main thing was obviously enjoying it and actually performing to your best of your ability. So determining what your niche was. I mean, I was never the front runner. I mean, I had a reasonably good time in the race that I did, but that was my niche, and I was quite happy with it because I was actually able to achieve that. And every time when you train and things like that, you actually try and achieve that niche or even better the next time you do a race, and that's how you keep on progressing. And same thing, I did rock climbing, I did mountain hiking and that as well, where you go out and like Drakensberg Mountains in South Africa. You do a hike, a 4-day hike, and you spend a whole day hiking, and you're determined to get to the top, and you kind of rewarded when you get to the end of it and you rest. And then you apply that all to business as well, where you actually persevere, especially in doing software development. What you're doing is problem solving and delivering a solution to your client. And similarly, you actually develop your niche in terms of what your capabilities are, and you're basically solving problems, and you might spend days and weeks on a problem. I suppose Ivan can relate to this as well. You just keep on persevering, and you might go down a certain road and you find you don't have a solution, and you have to try a different way, and you keep on trying different tactics or methods to actually solve the problem. Eventually you get to the end of it and you find your solution. Then once you've succumbed that, you've actually achieved the solution you required, and the next time you try it is actually a lot easier than what you did the first time. So you go on like that through life. And I think, and also, if you take technology the way it's improved all the time, it's never static. You've got to keep up to date, and you've got to keep on looking at the new methods. Like it was talking about the iPhone. I mean, obviously, they're all developing new techniques and to make it attractive. So you keep on making things attractive and advancing the technology to keep up to date. So I think it's good metaphors in terms of sports and things like that, and also looking to the greats in terms of the great athletes. I often watch sporting events. One of the greats, I think, was Javier Sotomayor, was the high jump. He's held the high jump record. And I was watching him last night on YouTube, just this historical thing, but it's quite amazing the achievements that he did, and determination he had, and the way he went about actually achieving his objectives. So I think that's basically what it is in life, is to keep on persevering with absolute determination as you do in the sport, and always looking for the great athletes and achievers in business, in terms of motivating yourself and aspiring to actually do better all the time. Even if you're an older person, you can still keep on persevering and trying to better yourself. I think your job is never ever finished. You've got to keep on innovating and moving forward. So basically, that's my take on comparing sport and business. Obviously, we can't all be professional sportsmen, but we can actually achieve what we set out to achieve, and that's the big thing in life. I think is just keep on going forward.
Great, good. Thanks, Liz. Yeah, I think that those are some key elements there. So, right, Lee, welcome back. Glad you came back. It's really getting quite challenging with just having Trevor and these other guys around me. I need someone to brighten up the room.
Well, I'm relieved that you're glad that I'm back. It's good to be back. So, and what a great topic. Well done, Edward. So I did put a little bit of thought into this, and I came up with Scrabble. So my mom is a Scrabble player, so that every day she's playing Scrabble on Facebook, and she's got at least 4 or 5 games going at any one point in time. So every now and again, I prepare to humble myself and I play a game with her on an actual board. And I say that because I can honestly say in the last 7 games we've played, I haven't won. But that's not my point about business. I guess the point I want to make about that is sword sharpens sword, that she is a brilliant Scrabble player. And when you are in business and you play with other good business people, and it's who you mix with, it's who you're learning from, it's the level of game you want to play. And if you're prepared to recognize that you're not going to get it first time round, but if that's what you aspire to, then you can learn from them. But it's more than that. What I've realized, my mom is a very tricky Scrabble player, and she always goes for the points. So it doesn't matter if she's got a 6-letter word. If it's going to give her, that 6-letter word is going to give her 15 points, she's going to go for the 2-letter word that sneaks in this, multiply this by this by this, that you can't build on. There's no ways you can build on it. But now she's got 30 points. And what it forces me to do is I have to be strategic. Because I know that if I put this juicy little word that's going to get me my 12 points, but I know that she's going to get 30 points because she's going to add this and this and this, I have to think very, very carefully where I put my word on the board. And so it's that strategic thinking that you have that I have to bring into the play. And then to me, it's also a combination of the cards that you get dealt, the letters that you draw, right? That's what you're given. You don't necessarily get all the, there are times when you've got 3 E's and 2 I's and a T, and you're supposed to make something from it. And I can honestly say, in however many games of Scrabble I've played, I've very, very seldom put all my, lost my turn and put all my letters in to get new letters, because you can always do something. And that's something that I've also believe in business, is that even though you're going through a dry patch, or, it feels like, and I've heard this, I've been in business now for 17 years, and every time somebody will tell me, oh, the market's not good. and I've done really, really well in bad markets, and I've had really tough times in what's supposed to be a good market. So I don't know about markets. You get what you dealt, and sometimes they are, to use Edward's words, they're shitty letters. And sometimes you can get in one game, you'll get the Z and the J and the X and a 7-letter word, and it's bumper. It's like it's just the things are flowing and the words are coming, and it's knowing how to go with the cycles. That they're good times and they're bad times, and you keep rolling, and then the last thing I want to say is the trickiest letter to get is a Q, because it's 10 points, and if you can find the right place to put it, it's good. You can make a good amount out of it, but there's almost no words that you can get with a Q without a U. So there's this patience element where you've got this gem that you can play at just the right moment, but you have to wait. There's a timing element, there's a partnership element, there's the right conditions coming at the right moment to be able to combine those elements, and then you make your move. And then I keep saying last thing. The last thing is change. I can have a brilliant word and have nowhere to put it. And so again, it goes back to adapting, changing, learning to shuffle what you have, work with what you have, and put down the best you can given the circumstances. So that's my business lessons based on Scrabble.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, so we're going to Scrabble across the Trevor and find out if you can unscramble that.
Fantastic metaphors to align all of these, and if I think it just each and every one of you just brought up thoughts, and I go back to perhaps Les, just from the sporting perspective, and he talks about comrades, and I think of Ed and all that about perseverance, but as I was thinking about this, I thought, okay, if I had to come up with one word out of everything that I've done, and that's, the comrades and doozies and playing sports and all different types of sports, there's one word that stands out for me all the time. And that word is shoot. Just take a shot. Have a go. Just pick up the ball or hit this thing. Just give it a go. And if I think back on this, what is the point of this? Well, if you're in really competitive sport, and I was in many games out of water polo that were highly competitive, you can't win a game if you don't score a goal. So at the very worst, if you've got two teams and none of the players in that entire game are taking any shots, the end score is 0-0. It is like kissing your blooming sister, for goodness sake. It just doesn't, it doesn't get my juices flowing. And I discovered that very early on. In fact, I think I've got a couple of certificates almost every year as I don't know why they gave it to me, but I got the award for the most shots in most club games and most sports. And it used to be, okay, here comes Trevor again, he's taking all the shots, or they would turn around and say, we'd get straight into the water. My aim getting into the water in a water polo game, the moment that whistle went off, within 60 seconds, I had to take a shot. And my coaches hated it. Just because they always wanted to play this chess game strategy, set yourself up, do this, do that, do that. In the end, what I discovered is that because I had a pretty good shot, because I practiced all the time, and we used to practice against, you know, at a real senior level, I practiced against the goalkeepers that we actually played against, because we, you know, we played representative sports and those goalkeepers played in my side. So I practiced against them and I would psych them out, because at practice I would make certain that I was hitting the goals with shots that they couldn't get. And I would turn around to them and say, I'm so pleased you're in our goals, because if you're in the other side's goals, you'll never stop my, you know, my shots. And the very next week, I'll never forget the first time we actually won a major league. We were a bunch of youngsters. And I was doing the same thing. I was being selected into sides, and one of the best goalkeepers around was in our selected side. But I was spurring him so much. When we played that final the very next week, he was in the other side's goals. So I was playing against my provincial goalkeeper then. And I knew straight away that I had psyched him out so much in the practices that I could shoot from anywhere. And that's what I did. I swam for the ball, got the ball at the halfway stage and took a shot. He didn't even bother to pick his arms up. He just took it out the back of the net. And so it happened within the first, it must have been about 90 seconds, we were 3-0 up. You can't win a final when you are 3-0 down and you're not taking shots. So for me, always the funniest when people on the side, I used to have coaches, boy, they would tear their hair out. Trevor, don't shoot. Oh, good shot. And I loved that. Don't shoot. Oh, good shot. And then afterwards you'd have a gameplay. No, but we would like you to have done this. But anyway, well done, because we did win the game. And thank you. I scored on average 3 to 4 goals a game, for goodness sake. Shoot. And if you then go back and you analyze what Tabisa said, what Ed said, Les, then Lee, it was all about taking action. You can't get into the game if you don't get to the start, for goodness sake. And that's what this metaphor of shoot is all about. Just take a shot. Oh, while I was thinking about that, the one person in life who really gives some moderation to my just shoot has always been my wife, because she says, okay, you can shoot, but don't you dare miss. Yes. So what that's about is, you know, maybe if you're the type of person like myself that is going to go out there and shoot, you also have to understand that there are other people behind you where you have responsibilities, where you're pretty conservative. And so you need to understand there's the yin and yang when it comes to relationships, that you can't throw all your money at everything because you've got people that actually rely on you to be a little bit conservative and build up. I've never really understood that. So, so I'm still driven by take a shot. It's better than actually sitting back and being totally unhappy in life. What is your passion? What do you like to do? Don't be scared. Have no fear. Take a shot. Understand the more shots you have, the more failures you're going to have. And I think that's where Les was going down. That's why you have to persevere. You have to keep going. But you can't score if you don't take shots.
Great, thanks, Trevor. Yeah, so Mr. Fire, aim ready. Yeah. Yeah, aim ready, fire, aim ready. Right, yeah, so yeah. Very quickly, because we run way over time for some strange reason, but it doesn't matter. From my point of view, I'm not going to talk sports. I'm going to talk photography. We did speak photography a little bit the other day, but a lot of those things still very much apply. Sometimes you just have to take the shot. You know, sometimes you need a bit of preparation in taking the shot. And a lot of the times, especially with taking shots of very small things, which I love to do, so macro photography, you need those two assistants that Les was talking about, patience and persistence. So, you know, they're very good assistants when it comes to doing lots of different things. And especially when you've got a business partner who just keeps on shooting, you you need a lot of patience and sometimes a lot of persistence as well. Yeah, I think the other elements that for me come in from a photographic perspective, obviously focus. I think focus is absolutely key. Sometimes sharp focus is good. Sometimes you don't need sharp focus. Sometimes a blurry result is actually desirable. And there's a whole genre of photography where people have developed these sort of surreal, blurred images that come out and do very well. I simply don't understand them, I must be honest. I prefer to have things in sharp focus. I like to be able to see what I'm doing and see what I'm shooting and see the result. And all of those things need to be in sharp focus. One of the problems when you're shooting all the time, you've got a lot of housekeeping to do afterwards. So if you just shoot all the time, someone's got to clean up. Someone's got to clean up behind you, or you've got to clean up behind you, because you just wind up with lots and lots and lots of things that look fairly similar. Trying to pick the best one out of that bunch can sometimes take more time than it took to take the photograph in the first place. So sometimes a bit of preparation, a bit of patience, and a bit of select timing gets you to the shot quicker, the final result quicker than just shooting and shooting and shooting. So, but then you get lucky now and again. You might score a couple of goals in the first 60 seconds, but question is, does it get you to the desired result? And if it does, that's fine. That's great. How much effort have you put in to get to that end result? That's the other question. So I think if you get your preparation, your planning right, and it's not procrastination, Ed, I absolutely agree with you. Reading books about writing, endlessly. That sounds like the perfect form of procrastination for a writer to me, but proper planning and preparation. There's a good seven-letter, what is it, an acronym? I don't know if it's an acronym. What's the 7 Ps. I don't know if you know about that one. Mm-hmm. So proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. So think about that one. So I think there's lots of analogies that we can use here, but picking, and we spoke about picking the right lens last week sometime as well. I think the right lens for the right activity, for the right kind of shot, for the right kind of result is often very important as well. So knowing what's in your toolkit, knowing what's in your bag, and knowing how to use those elements, I think, are also very key, both in photography and in business. If you sometimes photographers say, well, the best camera for the job is the one you've got in your hand, but it's not necessarily always the case. That sometimes it's the only one you have, so that's what you've got to take the shot with. But if you have had a bit of preparation and a bit of planning, you should have the right lens for the right task, and I think that's critical. So those are my bits and pieces from photography. So right now, Ed, topic for tomorrow. Shall we try and get someone else to give us a topic for tomorrow?
I think the sort of master is back, so it should be Lee that pulls it all together now, because she's the brains of the operation after all, isn't she?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Flattery will get you everywhere. I was thinking of something. The one I was wondering about this minimum viable product. How do you know what it is? How do you assess at what point it's viable? How much is minimum? And then once you've got it out there, how do you develop it from there? So how does it move from being an MVP into something more substantial? So how about talking about that tomorrow?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. So we can just shoot and see where we go with our MVP. Yeah. Good, yeah. Let's pick that up, because we did have a discussion about MVP, but we didn't have it in that context, which I think is great. So taking it to the next step, but also identifying what it is key. So I think an excellent one. All right, good. So thanks very much, folks. Let's talk MVP and its extensions tomorrow, and we'll take it from there. Otherwise, have a great day further. We'll see you soon. Cheers now.